What's up, guys and girls? Welcome back to another video. I'm sure you've seen it by now. Destined Rivals booster boxes have been absolutely exploding lately. They've hit like $400 on TCG Player and eBay. They're absolutely insane to find, and this is like one of the craziest price explosions we've seen for a new set in the Scarlet Violet era and just kind of Pokemon in general. So let's buckle up and I'll dive right into it and talk about it today. Also, before we hop into the video, be sure to like and subscribe. Help me out a ton. I think like 20% of y'all that watch the videos are actually subscribed, so you could subscribe. It's just the little red button down there. Help me out a ton. Let's go ahead and hop into it. So I'm going to be breaking down why Destined Rivals booster boxes have reached this level of insane hype and just like continue to grow and go up basically, and just kind of explain why I feel like this may be maybe a short-term peak or why they might not reach $500 in the near-term future. But I'm just going to dive into it today and just kind of break it down for you and just give you little bits and pieces about why I feel this way and what I can see the future being. So first off, you might be asking yourself, why is the booster box price so high in the first place? And there's a couple good reasons for why it is like that. One is just distribution and the amount of that were made at the time. Now, obviously, when Pokemon made these back, 8 months ago from May when they released, Surging Sparks was just starting to get the huge wave of influx of new players. Pokemon Pocket was just coming out, and this led to a decreased amount being made because Pokemon was still relying on the old data that they'd gathered previous year of 2024 of what the demand outlook for Pokemon might have looked like for the future. And because of that, they made less Pokemon Destined Rivals booster boxes than they had for, other sets and relative similarities to the previous sets before. But obviously with this newfound increased demand that suddenly came in, Pokemon didn't know what to do, and they had a shortage of these booster boxes obviously available. Another reason the price has also exploded has just been the chases within the set have been absolutely spectacular to a lot of different people. Now, obviously, personal opinions aside, you can't look at these sets and look at it and be like, wow, that is a cool chase card. The Mewtwo is pretty cool. The Moltres looks honestly like the best card in the set. The Cynthia's Garchomp's really cool. Fan favorite person, fan favorite Pokemon. A lot of people like it, and obviously that has led to a large amount of people wanting to pick up these chase cards and people wanting to open the set to try and chase these chase cards. Obviously, this is leading to more packs being opened, and a lot of booster boxes, at least from personal experience, were opened on release. I know almost every single booster box that was opened at my GameStop. I think I might have the only one left that wasn't opened at the GameStop. So people do open these things and they do want specific cards for the chase. And thirdly, the big reason why this has gone up a lot is investors and hype and FOMO have really driven people to be investing hard in this set because, like I said earlier, the other combination of factors, people see this as a future investment and that it is going to hold a lot of value in the future. And there's nothing wrong with that, honestly. If you believe this is going to be doing well in the future, I agree. I think in the future it will have a lot of value, but I think in the shorter term, I just feel this is kind of, a bubbly sort of thing, especially with Destined Rivals and this being a newer set. Now, I very well could be wrong, and I can admit that, and if I'm wrong, I sold my booster box way too early. It happens. But I do look at the data of this sort of stuff and see a lot of demand, but what happens when that demand drops? Does Pokemon go back to suddenly being $80 again? Do the booster boxes go away? Like, what happens with these current prices in this current bubble? We haven't seen what happens in the past besides 2021, and what happened then? Demand dried up, and obviously the prices went back down. So will that happen again? Who knows? This is obviously a very hype set. A lot of people have FOMO'd into this, and a lot of people have told me they hold it. Nothing wrong with that. But personally, I think that shorter term, this is kind of the peak we're going to be seeing. I don't know if these have, enough to keep going up to 500, because then you're pushing into like past Paldea even in like other sets. And mind you, Paldea and those sets in the beginning block of Scarlet and Violet are literally going to be rotating out. So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for this to be pushing $500 in the meantime, unless Paldea suddenly jumps up to 600, 700, in which case that's, great for Paldea. I think that at least makes a little bit more sense than this pushing higher than the other one. But yeah, and I'm probably going to get a lot of hate for this, but I feel like a lot of people are not thinking about the current risk that come with buying a booster box for $400 in a newly produced set that won't be out of rotation until like 2027, I believe. Like it'll be printed for a while. It's like one of the oldest sets that's going to be out of rotation in a while. If that makes sense. I have a whole video on it if you want to go check that out, where I probably can explain it better. But people aren't calculating the risk of that. The market can change a lot in 2 years. It can change a lot in 1 year. And I think people are so caught up in the current euphoria of the line will always go up and Pokemon will always be worth more. And while I think that's very much true, I think Pokemon will go up. I invest in it, and I think, things do go up over time as supply dwindles down. I think people are really, really overestimating the amount that Pokemon will want to print. Because I think Pokemon is seeing the dollar signs and saying, you know what, we can increase production by 50%. We can print more money and it'll just be gobbled up because everyone's buying it. And if production goes up too much, which it's a very delicate balance, and do you trust Pokemon to be able to hit it? They didn't hit it last time. They haven't hit it the time before. They have always overprinted, whether on accident, purpose, profits, whatever you want to say. But I feel people are not taking the risk into account for this sort of stuff, investing into Destined Rivals at $400 a box. That's just way too risky for me. That's a lot of money to tie up in a box that, like I said, it's going to be in print for 2 more years. Yeah, there's going to be FOMO. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of hype for it. But do you really think it has so much room to grow that it's going to go double again? It's going to be $800 in the next 2 years? No, it's still in print. It'll still be printed more. There will be reprints for it within the next 2 to 3 years. It just doesn't make sense for them just not to. Could they? Yeah, crazier things have happened. I feel like people are not considering the risk in this sort of stuff. Mind you, these are collectibles. The only thing that box, the booster box, generates for you value-wise is what the next person is willing to pay for it. If nobody's willing to pay for it at $400, it drops in price. So just consider the risk of that before you invest $400 into Destined Rivals. Not saying that that's bad. Not even saying it's a bad investment long term. Like if you're holding for 10 years, $400 might not seem like a whole lot. If you're investing like a lot of money, you're like, oh, in the next year this is going to be an $800 box. Just be careful of it because it's not guaranteed to go back up. Okay, now that I've talked short term about it, let's talk about long term. Where I see this set long term, I obviously think it has the makings of a fantastic set. The cards are good. I think the set overall is very fun. It's very enjoyable. I haven't had the best luck opening it, but I know a lot of people have. Long term, we're talking, 5 to 7 years. I don't think people realize how long that is to hold. There are so many people that don't actually end up holding stuff for that long. Like, I kid you not, as somebody who's invested into CSGO skins, there are so many people that have not held stuff for that long. I'm one of the few people that has held cases for that long, or play skins and things like that for that long. So there's people that will say they're in it for long term, but a lot of times if things drop or they need money, they're selling stuff. So long term for Destined Rivals, I feel like this set obviously has the legs of a great box. I could see in 5 years this being a $2,000 to $3,000 box. I think that's not unlikely. Once it's out of print, then supply becomes a factor, FOMOs and all sorts of things like that can definitely take over. But this is a longer term talk about play now, not so much the short term. And I think people need to remember that this is a more longer term play. If you're investing $400 a box and 5 years from now it's $1,000, you made decent games, you doubled your money at least, and what is that, like 150% increase, something like that. That's a good return. But if it drops to 200 in 2026, end of 2026, 2027, and it's $200 a box, you could buy in at 200. Now, obviously, some people are going to dollar cost average, but you can't dollar cost average forever. Like, eventually, you run out of money to dollar cost average, unless you're investing a portion. Which if you want to invest a little bit, that's fine. But I wouldn't say make it a large portion of your entire portfolio. So, just saying the gains could be better even if you bought it at a later date. So, if you sold something for 400, you bought it 200, bought it 400, you go back in, it drops to 400, you buy it or 200, you buy it at 200 again. 5 years later, it's 300 or 1,000 or something like that. You made pretty good increase. You made like a 500% increase versus like a 300% increase. Just saying, long term, looking at it play wise, maybe it goes up forever. I don't know if it does. Who knows? Nobody knows. But yeah, I would just say shorter term, be looking to minimize risk. This is a really risky asset, I guess, to hold for a lot of people. So in closing, there's a lot of risk that is associated with Destined Rivals currently. Obviously, $400 is a lot of money for a lot of people. $400 is some people's car payment. Like, that is a ton of money to be investing into a single booster box of something that doesn't generate wealth or anything like that besides just selling to the next person. We've seen this before in other markets. I think Pokemon has a lot of legs. Again, I'm not saying short or long term this is a bad investment or anything like that, but I just want people to be weary of the risk that does actually exist here. The line does not go up forever, and it will not. Eventually, Pokemon will print more, and it will drop. Like, it can't go up forever. If people are saying, well, new investors are coming in, new investors, that's normally what indicates the top, is when new people are suddenly coming in that don't know any better. That is when the people that don't know anything are spending money on things they don't care about or know about or only see money. Man, we've seen it so many times with other markets, housing. We've seen it with NFT and cryptos. We've seen multiple crypto crafts where things were corrected back down because people that didn't care about crypto were getting into it. This is a long ranty style video, but yeah, in closing, just be careful. I'm not telling you how to invest your money, just giving my opinion. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. I know we're getting super close to 100 subs here. Like I said earlier, if you could like and subscribe, help me out a ton. We're going to be doing that giveaway here in a couple weeks, hopefully, once I can hit 100. We're so close. But other than that, check out the Discord. Links in the description. I think that's about it. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Appreciate you.